Sure, to win. I mean, that's what we've always done. The money's never been a factor. We raced when we didn't have any.
But the car come around, I think it's going to be okay. We've got a good engine in it, but...
Richard Dale Earnhardt Sr. wasn't just a race car driver, he was a legend. Known for his fearless driving style and relentless competitiveness, he earned the nickname the Intimidator. From 1975 until his untimely death in 2001, he dominated the world of NASCAR. Fans loved him. Competitors respected and feared him. But on February 18, 2001, during the final lap of the Daytona 500, tragedy struck. As he fought to maintain position and block competitors to help his team, Earnhardt's number 3 car clipped another vehicle, veered down the track, and slammed head-on into the wall at around 160 miles per hour. It seemed like just another hard crash in a dangerous sport, but this time, it was different. Initial reports stated that Dale Earnhardt died instantly from a basilar skull fracture, but now, new details of his death are coming out. And what was found in the autopsy reports will leave your mouth wide open. Who is Dale Earnhardt Sr.? Dale Earnhardt wasn't just a race car driver, he was a force. Known for his aggressive and sometimes unbelievable driving, he quickly became one of the most popular drivers in NASCAR history. Fans called him the Intimidator for good reason. Throughout his career, Dale racked up an incredible list of achievements. 7 NASCAR championships, 76 wins, 26 poles, and more than 25,000 laps led across 406 races. He also had 70 second-place finishes, 281 top 5s, and 428 top 10 finishes in 676 career starts. In total, he earned over $40 million in winnings. It was clear, on the track, he was a legend. But behind the wheel wasn't the only place his story began. Dale Earnhardt was born on April 29, 1951, in Kannapolis, North Carolina. He was the 3rd child of Martha and Ralph Earnhardt. His father, Ralph, was already a respected short-track driver and won a NASCAR Sportsman Championship in 1956. Racing ran deep in the family. By the age of 12, Dale had already caught the racing bug. In secret, he took his father's car out and nearly won a race against one of Ralph's top competitors. A really bold move for a kid. In 1972, Dale even raced against his father at Metrolina Speedway. But despite Dale's clear passion and growing talent, Ralph didn't want his son to follow his path in racing. Still, Dale had made up his mind. He dropped out of school to chase his dream. Ralph was a tough mentor, but his lessons stayed with Dale. When Ralph passed away suddenly in 1973 from a heart attack at just 45, Dale was left with more than just grief. He carried a deep desire to prove himself, and it took years before he felt he truly had. Dale came from a big family with 4 siblings, brothers Danny and Randy, and house sisters Kathy and Kay. His love life was just equally as full. At 17, he married Latane Brown, and a year later, they had a son, Kerry. The marriage didn't last, and they divorced in 1970. A year later, Dale married Brenda G., daughter of a NASCAR car builder. They had 2 kids, Kelly in 1972 and Dale Jr. in 1974. That marriage also ended, but not long after, Dale found love again with Teresa Houston. They married in 1982 and welcomed their daughter, Taylor Nicole, in 1988. Dale's career. Dale Earnhardt's journey into professional NASCAR racing officially began in 1975 at the grueling World 600 in Charlotte, North Carolina, the longest race on the Cup calendar. But truth be told, his story had already started the year before in a lesser-known exhibition event at Metrolina Speedway. It wasn't a points race, but it was competitive. With just 8 laps to go, Earnhardt was battling hard for third when he dove under Richard Childress and spun out. He was in the mix, aggressive, hungry, and already making noise. Driving the number 8 Ed Nigre Dodge Charger, Earnhardt finished 22nd, just one spot ahead of Childress, who, years later, would become his team owner. Between 1975 and 1979, Earnhardt raced only 8 more times. But what he lacked in seat time, he made up for in grit. Then came 1979. That year, he signed with Rod Osterlund Racing. It was a rookie class to remember, with Earnhardt joining the ranks alongside future stars Harry Gant and Terry Labonte. But it was Earnhardt who made the biggest splash. He won his first race at Bristol, captured 4 poles, and collected 11 top 5 and 17 top 10 finishes. And he did all this despite missing 4 races with a broken collarbone. His performance earned him Rookie of the Year and notice. In 1980, with a 20-year-old Doug Richard as crew chief, Earnhardt wasn't about to slow down. He kicked off the season by winning the Busch Clash and went on to take 5 wins, including stops in Atlanta, Bristol, Nashville, Martinsville, and Charlotte. When the dust settled, he had done something no one else in NASCAR history had ever achieved. He followed a Rookie of the Year title with a championship the very next season. Only 2 other drivers, David Pearson and Richard Petty, had ever won both titles in their careers, but Earnhardt did it back-to-back. Then things got rocky in 1981. Halfway through the season, team owner Rod Osterlund sold the team to Jim Stacy, a wealthy businessman from Kentucky who had entered NASCAR in 1977. Earnhardt didn't click with Stacy and walked away after just 4 races. For the rest of the season, he returned to racing with Childress, this time behind the wheel of a Pontiac. Despite the mid-season shakeup, Earnhardt still finished 7th in points. But at the season's end, he and Childress parted ways. Earnhardt felt the chemistry just wasn't right. In 1982, acting on Childress's advice, Earnhardt signed with Bud Moore Engineering. He raced in the number 15 Ford Thunderbird, sponsored by Wrangler Jeans, the only full-time Ford ride in his career. But that year tested him. He won a single race at Darlington, but failed to finish 18 out of 30 events and ended up 12th in the standings, his worst season ever. On top of that, he suffered a broken kneecap at Pocono after flipping in a crash with Tim Richmond. He bounced back in 1983. He won his first of what would become 12 Daytona, 125 qualifying races, and added victories in Nashville and Talladega. He finished the season 8th in points, even though he still struggled with 13 DNFs. But something had shifted. He was getting his groove back. In 1984, Earnhardt returned to Richard Childress Racing. This time, it was different. The partnership worked, and in 1986, it paid off big. Earnhardt won his 2nd Cup title and delivered Childress his first owner's championship. With 5 wins, 16 top 5S, and 23 top 10S, it was a stellar year. But 1987 was better. That season, Earnhardt won 11 races, including 5 of the first 7. He set a modern-era NASCAR record by winning 4 straight races. He wrapped up the championship with a 489-point lead over Bill Elliott. That same year, he earned a nickname that would follow him forever, the Intimidator. In the Winston All-Star race, Earnhardt was forced into the grass by Bill Elliott. But he didn't lift off the gas. He kept control and shot back onto the track without losing his lead. The move became legendary. Though he didn't pass anyone while in the grass, the moment was forever called the pass in the grass. The threats. Fame brought problems. After the Winston ace, a fan wrote a threatening letter to NASCAR's Bill France Jr., vowing to kill Earnhardt at Pocono, Watkins Glen, or Dover. the FBI stepped in to provide protection. Thankfully, all 3 races came and went without incident, and the case was closed. On the track, not everyone loved his style. Earnhardt didn't play nice. He drove hard and didn't apologize. NASCAR even introduced a new rule requiring drivers who caused aggressive incidents to spend time in the garage during races. It was an attempt to tame drivers like Earnhardt, who pushed the limit every lap. Fast forward to 1998. Earnhardt had already won 7 championships, but had never conquered the Daytona 500. He had tried 19 times and come up short every time. But on February 15, 1998, everything changed. Earnhardt won his twin 125 qualifying race for the 9th straight year. A week earlier, he'd driven 20 laps alone under Daytona's brand new lights. It felt symbolic. This was his year. On race day, Jeff Gordon looked strong early, but by lap 138, Earnhardt had taken the lead. And with a crucial push from teammate Mike Skinner, he held onto it. As he crossed the finish line, crew members from every team lined pit road and clapped. It didn't matter who they worked for, everyone knew they'd witnessed something special. In victory lane, Earnhardt spun his number 3 in the infield grass, leaving tire marks in the shape of his iconic number. Then he grabbed the mic and shouted, "The Daytona 500 is ours! We won it! We won it! We won it!" It was his only win of the year. Still, he almost pulled off a Daytona sweep in the Pepsi 400, Daytona's first night race. But a loose tire on pit road cost him the win. Mid-season, he slipped to 12th in the standings. Childress made a bold move. He switched Earnhardt's crew chief with Mike Skinner's. Kevin Hamlin moved to Earnhardt's team, while Larry McReynolds went to Skinner. The change helped. Earnhardt ended the season 8th in points, with 5 top 5s and 13 top 10s. As 1999 rolled in, fans began to wonder if Earnhardt, now 48, was nearing retirement, especially with Dale Jr. making his Cup debut. Many thought his days of dominating were over, and that he could only win at restrictor plate tracks like Talladega. Then he proved them wrong. He swept both Talladega races that year, silencing critics who said his edge was gone. Then came the August race at Michigan. Earnhardt ran strong, leading late in the race and nearly breaking his non-plate drought. A week later at Bristol, he delivered one of the most talked-about moments in NASCAR history. With 15 laps to go, a caution came out. Leader Terry Labonte got nudged by a lapped Darrell Waltrip and spun, handing the lead to Earnhardt. But Labonte had 4 fresh tires, and Earnhardt's were worn. Labonte sliced through traffic and passed Earnhardt just as they approached the white flag. That's when Earnhardt made his move. He drove hard into turn 2, clipped Labonte's back bumper, and sent him spinning. The crowd booed. Some fans even flipped him off. But Earnhardt didn't flinch. "I didn't mean to turn him around," he said afterwards. "I just wanted to rattle his cage." He won the race and added another line to his legacy. That season, he finished 7th in points with 3 wins, 7 top 5s, and 21 top 10s. His average finish was a solid 12.0. By the turn of the millennium, Earnhardt had nothing left to prove. But that didn't stop him from pushing harder than ever. He wasn't just a legend. He was a living piece of racing history. From rough beginnings to racing royalty, Dale Earnhardt didn't just race cars. He changed the sport. His death. By the year 2000, Dale Earnhardt had something to prove. People were starting to wonder if the Intimidator still had it. He hadn't won a championship in 6 years, and at 49, some thought his best days were behind him. But Earnhardt wasn't done, not even close. That season, he came back stronger than anyone expected, and many believed the turnaround was thanks to neck surgery that fixed lingering pain from a brutal crash at Talladega in 1996. Whatever it was, it worked. Earnhardt found a new gear. At Atlanta, he edged out Bobby Labonte by just 0.010 seconds in a heart-stopping finish, one of the most thrilling of the year. But he wasn't finished. At Talladega, he pulled off a miracle, charging from 18th to 1st in the final 4 laps. The crowd went wild as he claimed his record 10th win at the track and his only noble $1 million bonus. It was vintage Earnhardt, fast, fearless, and unbeatable when it mattered most. He followed those wins with solid second-place finishes at Richmond and Martinsville, tracks that had given him trouble in the late 90s. By mid-season, he was second in the standings, and fans started to believe an 8th championship might actually be within reach. But racing has a way of turning quickly. At Watkins Glen, a wreck in the chicane dropped him back. In Bristol, while leading, he tangled with Kenny Irwin Jr. and lost another shot at victory. On intermediate tracks like Charlotte and Dover, Earnhardt struggled to keep up with the dominant Ford teams from Roush, Yates, and Penske. Meanwhile, Bobby Labonte kept finishing near the front, week after week. Consistency won the war. Still, Earnhardt's numbers told a story of grit. He finished 2000 with 2 wins, 13 top 5s, 24 top 10s, and an average finish of 9.4. He was one of only 2 drivers, alongside Labonte, to finish every race that season without a single DNF. Then came Daytona. February 18th, 2001, the Daytona 500. On the final lap, Earnhardt was doing what he always did, racing hard, protecting his team. Michael Waltrip, his driver, was out front. His son, Dale Jr., was running second. Earnhardt was blocking behind them, trying to hold off Sterling Marlin on the inside and Ken Schrader on the outside. But in a split second, it all went wrong. Slight contact sent Earnhardt's number 3 car up the track and head-on into the wall at turn 4. Schrader hit him too, and both cars slid down into the grass. Seconds later, Waltrip crossed the finish line, winning his first Daytona 500. Dale Jr. followed him in second. Earnhardt never saw it happen. He was taken to Halifax Medical Center, where doctors pronounced him dead at 5:16 p.m. A fatal basilar skull fracture had ended the life of a racing legend. He was just 49 years old. NASCAR President Mike Helton delivered the news with a voice full of pain. "We've lost Dale Earnhardt." 4 days later, thousands gathered at Calvary Church in Charlotte to say goodbye. Fans, drivers, friends, and family came together not just to mourn, but to remember a man who gave everything to the sport he loved. Dale Earnhardt was more than a driver. He was the heart of NASCAR. And even in death, he crossed the finish line with his team out front. Speculations surrounding Earnhardt's death. In the days following Dale Earnhardt's shocking death at Daytona, NASCAR found itself in mourning and in turmoil. Press conferences were held back-to-back, but the silence left by the sport's biggest name was deafening. Sterling Marlin, the driver who made slight contact with Earnhardt just before the fatal crash, found himself the target of hate mail and even death threats. But both Michael Waltrip and Dale Earnhardt Jr. stood firmly by Marlin's side. In emotional public statements, they made it clear Marlin was not to blame. As grief spread through the sport, investigations began. Both NASCAR and the Daytona Beach Police launched deep dives into the crash. No detail was left untouched. One major finding sparked controversy. The seatbelt in Earnhardt's car had failed. The fallout was swift. Bill Simpson, whose company manufactured the seatbelts used in nearly every NASCAR car, resigned amid the firestorm. Safety would never be an afterthought again. In October 2001, NASCAR made a bold move. It mandated the use of the Hans device, a head and neck restraint Earnhardt had refused to wear, calling it too uncomfortable. That decision haunted the garage. But the rule was now law for all 3 of NASCAR's national series. Meanwhile, Richard Childress faced the nearly impossible task of filling the seat of the number 3 car. But he also made a promise that black number 3, with the GM Goodwrench logo, would never race again. The car was rebranded as number 29, and a young Busch Series driver named Kevin Harvick was called up to take the wheel. It was Harvick's rookie year, but he was now driving for a legend. At the track, fans were given special pennants bearing Earnhardt's number 3. The Childress team showed up in blank black uniforms, a somber tribute that wouldn't last long, as the familiar Goodwrench branding soon returned. Still, a quiet tribute remained. The stylized number 3 was placed just above the number 29 on Harvick's car and stayed there until he left the team in 2013. Then, in 2014, something remarkable happened. The number 3 returned. This time, it was driven by Childress's grandson, Austin Dillon. It wasn't the same car, and it wasn't the same sponsor. GM Goodwrench had been rebranded years earlier, but for fans, the number meant everything, and they found their own way to honor the man they lost. At every race, on the 3rd lap, thousands would rise and hold up 3 fingers in silence. Broadcasters on Fox and NBC joined the tribute too, going quiet during the 3rd lap of every race from Rockingham until the same event the following year. If there wasn't a caution, the silence was all you heard. Then came a moment that felt almost scripted by fate. Just 3 weeks after Earnhardt's death, Kevin Harvick, driving a car originally built for Earnhardt, won at Atlanta in a photo finish over Jeff Gordon. The margin? 0.006 seconds. It was only 0.004 of a second closer than Earnhardt's dramatic win over Bobby Labonte the year before. In the pit G-Time gas man, Danny "Chocolate" Myers wept. On the track, Harvick lit up the front stretch with a burnout and held 3 fingers outside the window. Harvick would go on to win again at Chicagoland and finish 9th in points, earning Rookie of the Year honors and the Busch Series championship. Dale Earnhardt Inc. carried the banner too, winning 5 races that season. Steve Park grabbed an emotional win at Rockingham just 1 week after Daytona. Dale Jr. and Waltrip reversed their Daytona 500 finish at the Pepsi 400 in July. Jr. also took wins at Dover just after 9/11ths and Talladega, finishing 8th in the standings. Earnhardt's final resting place was a private one. He was laid to rest at his estate in Mooresville, North Carolina, following a quiet funeral on February 21st. But his presence? Still everywhere. Dale Earnhardt's autopsy reports. In the months following Dale Earnhardt's tragic death at the 2001 Daytona 500, a legal and emotional tug-of-war unfolded, not on the racetrack, but in the courtroom. At the center of it was a delicate compromise. An independent medical expert would be allowed to examine graphic autopsy images of the racing legend, not to sensationalize, but to seek truth and clarity. The Orlando Sentinel had requested access to the photos, not to publish them, but to further investigate NASCAR's safety protocols. Dale's widow, Teresa Earnhardt, had moved quickly to seal the images, citing privacy concerns. A public debate soon followed. How much did the world have the right to know? The mediator-appointed expert was Dr. Barry Myers, a crash injury specialist from Duke University with no ties to either side. Inside the Volusia County Medical Examiner's office, he quietly studied 14 physical slides and 46 digital images, along with other medical reports. To participate in this debate is an honor, Myers said afterward. He agreed to deliver a report on the cause of death and the extent of Earnhardt's head trauma in the weeks that followed. Once completed, the photos would be sealed permanently. The final autopsy findings were grim but conclusive. The official cause of death: blunt force head trauma. It was ruled an accident. According to the report, Earnhardt suffered 2 areas of bleeding on the back of his scalp, each about 3.2 by 2.2 inches, 8.1 by 5.6 centimeters. A skull fracture ran through his temporal bones, some of the hardest in the body, and extended to the occipital bone at the base of his skull. There was more. Bleeding beneath the temporalis muscles, used for chewing and facial movement, indicated immense force. All of his ribs on the right side were broken, as well as one on the left. He also had a fractured left ankle. As far as the medical examiner is concerned, this is now a closed case, said Volusia County spokesman Dave Byron. But for fans, friends, and family, the legacy and the questions remained wide open. The relationship between father and son. The Earnhardts are NASCAR royalty, but the bond between father and son didn't come easy. Dale Earnhardt Sr. became one of the winningest and most feared drivers in NASCAR history. His son, Dale Earnhardt Jr., followed in his footsteps and grew into one of the most beloved figures in the sport. But off the track, their relationship was often stuck in neutral. Prime Video's new docuseries. Earnhardt dives deep into this iconic family, peeling back the layers of Dale Sr.'s legacy through rare footage and emotional interviews. It promises to reveal the man behind the black number 3 car, told by his kids, rivals, and close friends. At the heart of the story is Dale Jr., who not only had to live up to his father's name, but also had to process unimaginable grief after Dale Sr.'s fatal crash at the 2001 Daytona 500. Surprisingly, racing didn't run through Dale Jr.'s veins from the beginning. While Dale Sr. learned his grit and determination from his own father, Ralph Earnhardt, a short-track legend, Dale Jr. didn't feel that same early pull toward the sport. He was Dale Sr.'s second child, born to Brenda G., who raised him and his sister Kelly after divorcing Dale Sr. But in May 1981, tragedy struck when Brenda's home burnt down. Dale Jr., then 6, and Kelly, then 8, moved in with their dad. At that point, Dale Sr. was laser-focused on his NASCAR career after winning his first championship in 1980. As a result, he was rarely around. He became frustrated that Dale Jr. was more interested in goofing around with friends than spending time in the race shop. Their connection remained distant, more obligation than bond. When Dale Jr. started acting out in middle school, Dale Sr. and his third wife, Teresa, enrolled him in military school. It worked to a point. Dale Jr. became more disciplined, but the emotional distance from his father only widened. In a 2019 interview, Dale Jr. revealed that his dad didn't even attend his high school graduation. "We didn't go hunting together. He didn't take me on trips. I was never like when he would go do things. I was never like an idea or a consideration," Dale Jr. said. Desperate to find common ground, Dale Jr. tried racing. And to everyone's surprise, he was good. Racing, the very thing that had kept them apart, started to bring them together. In the early 90s, Dale Jr. started racing late models with Kelly and their half-brother, Kerry. He only won 4 of 159 races, but his potential was clear. Eventually, he joined Dale Earnhardt Inc., DEI, his father's team, in NASCAR's Busch Series. In 1998, Dale Jr. won his first Busch race and then 6 more that year, capturing the series championship. He repeated the feat in 1999. On the Joe Rogan Experience, Dale Jr. recalled how that success changed everything. So he is thinking, "Damn, this little Tsitu can drive a car." And that's when our relationship completely changed, he said. That's when he had his arm around me. We were doing stuff together. We talked about life, girls, and everything but racing. And it was awesome. Dale Jr. soon jumped to the Cup Series, driving the number 8 Budweiser car, a ride that became nearly as iconic as his dad's number 3. In 2001, the Earnhardts even teamed up for the Rolex 24 endurance race. Finally, father and son were side by side, not just on the track, but in life. But tragedy was just around the corner. February 18th, 2001, the Daytona 500. Dale Sr. was leading the final lap, blocking 2 cars to protect the front-running duo, Michael Waltrip and Dale Jr. Then came the crash. Dale Sr.'s car collided with Ken Schrader and hit the wall head-on. By the time Dale Jr. got to the hospital, his father was already gone. The man known as the Intimidator had died at 49, and his son was suddenly thrust into a lonely spotlight. I went back in my bus, shut the door, and sat in my room. I thought to myself, I'm going to have to do this by myself now, Dale Jr. told ESPN. Having Dad was like a cheat sheet, knowing all the answers. Dale Jr. honored his father in the best way he could. He raced. He won the July race at Daytona just months after the tragedy. Then, in 2004, he finally captured his own Daytona 500 victory. But the pressure and the grief took a toll. Between 2005 and 2013, he won only 4 races. Critics began to question his drive. He wasn't the same eager kid anymore. Instead, he was a man who had seen too much, too soon. In 2011, Dale Jr. pushed back. I haven't seen one guy go through a situation like that and not come out different, he said. But I still love the sport, and I'd do anything for it. He never won a Cup championship, but Dale Jr.'s impact on NASCAR was undeniable. He won 26 races, took home another Daytona 500 in 2014, and was named the sport's most popular driver a record 15 times. His influence extended beyond the track, especially after he opened up about concussion issues in his 2018 book, Racing to the Finish. After sitting out half the 2016 season due to those symptoms, he retired from full-time racing in 2017. The Earnhardt story is not just about racing. It's about fathers and sons, distance and closeness, tragedy and triumph. And maybe most of all, it's about finally learning how to meet each other at the finish line. Not just in victory, but in understanding. Were you ever a fan of Dale Earnhardt Sr.? Share your thoughts with us in the comments below. Remember to like, share, and subscribe for more. Also, click the following video shown on your screen. You will enjoy it.